1991, Technos Japan released what is arguably the best wrestling arcade game of all time. WWF WrestleFest completely set the gold standard for the wrestling video game genre. With a large roster and improved grapple mechanics, it inspired wrestling games for years to come, standing virtually unchallenged for the better part of a decade.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome gamers and wrestling fans to another episode of Arcade Economy, the series where we take a look at old arcade classics to determine just how much they cost to beat and how fair they were to our wallets. Last time on Arcade Economy, we cleaned up the streets of Virtua City in Virtua Cop. Today, we are stepping foot in the ring to take on WrestleFest. Did WrestleFest give us a fair fight, or was it just a heel turn waiting to happen? As always, let's find out. By the late 80s, wrestling was gaining more and more popularity, and some of the most popular wrestlers had already become household names. So naturally, the video game industry was ready to cash in on the trend. Wrestling video games had been around for quite some time, but hadn't really found their footing just yet. Many of the big video game developers threw their hat in the ring, giving us fan favorites like 1983's Tag Team Wrestling, 1985's Mat Mania, 1988's The Main Event, and 1989's Wrestle War. But despite nearly 15 wrestling arcade game releases, they all seem to be missing one thing: big name wrestlers. Coming off of Tag Team Wrestling and Mat Mania a few years earlier, Technos Japan sought out the WWF license and tapped Double Dragon creator Yoshihisa Kishimoto to direct the game. And in May of 1989, Technos released WWF Superstars, featuring 6 playable WWF characters: Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, The Big Boss Man, and The Honky Tonk Man. It also featured a tag team of unplayable characters Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase as boss characters. Superstars was a smash hit, and it expanded the wrestling game mechanics to be more in line with what one would expect from a WWF broadcast. But its sequel would be the masterpiece that finally captured the sheer scale and spectacle of the sport, delivering a technical and visual upgrade that, in this YouTuber's opinion, wouldn't be matched for almost a decade. With Kishimoto back in the driver's seat for the follow-up, Technos released WWF WrestleFest in June of 1991. WrestleFest went on to be a huge hit, receiving tons of positive reception. Now, unfortunately, it was the last wrestling game that Technos ever released, and despite its success, no ports or sequels ever made its way to consoles. And when I say that no other wrestling game would come close to touching this for the better part of a decade, what I mean is this. Sure, wrestling games would continue to sell pretty well on consoles throughout the 90s. However, most of them were LJN slogs that were extremely hard and not very fun to play. They basically sold on the WWF brand name alone. We did have WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, hit arcades in '95, but let's be real here. As much as I do enjoy this game, it was more in line with Mortal Kombat than it was a traditional wrestling game. Visuals in wrestling games would start to improve in the late 90s with games like Warzone and Attitude, but the gameplay mechanics remained sluggish and clunky, and it wouldn't be until 1999 and 2000 when WWF dropped acclaim for publisher THQ. This is when WWF games really started to level up. You had the releases of WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy on the N64, and SmackDown on the PS1. In 2012, THQ released a remake of WrestleFest for iOS devices, and it featured a mix of modern and legendary wrestlers. Although a release was planned for current-gen systems at the time, it never came into fruition. In 2021, a spiritual successor, Retromania Wrestling, was released in homage to WrestleFest, with more modern game modes and controls. But while all these titles are a great nod to the past, they can never quite replicate the magic of the original. So let's step through the ropes to break down the gameplay mechanics and figure out exactly how much it costs to survive both game modes. After entering your quarters into the machine, you'll get to choose between two different match options: Royal Rumble and Saturday night's main event, where you'll enter a tag team tournament. The game supports up to 4 players at the same time, with up to 6 players in the ring for the Royal Rumble, and players get to choose between a roster of 10 selectable wrestlers, including Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Warrior, Sergeant Slaughter, Mr. Perfect, Jake the Snake Roberts, The Big Boss Man, Earthquake, Ted DiBiase, and Smash and Crush from the tag team Demolition. The Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal also appear in the game, but are unplayable bosses. Now you may notice a glaring omission here, and that is Macho Man Randy Savage, and that's because when this game was in development, Savage was in temporary retirement following his WrestleMania 7 match against The Ultimate Warrior. The game uses an 8-way joystick with 2 buttons, punch and kick. But to become a pro at this, you won't use these much on their own. Instead, they come in most handy when you're in a grapple. Getting close to your opponent will initiate a grapple, and the first to land 2 hits within the grapple will win the grapple. I'm pretty sure I just said grapple way too many times there. After winning, you can do one of 3 things: move the opponent around the ring in a headlock for better positioning, perform a special move by pressing punch, or whip the opponent into the ropes by pressing kick. Each wrestler has an extensive list of their own unique attacks. Grapple attacks will alternate, and when your enemies are on low health, will change to a different attack. Players can also initiate a run by pressing punch and kick together. Attacks can be performed from grapples, while running, while standing and waiting from an Irish whipped opponent, on downed opponents, and from the top rope. When opponents are downed, you can also pin your opponent by pressing kick. All wrestlers have submission holds as well. Each character also has their own unique finishing move, which will be performed when your opponent's health is dangerously low. Finishers include Hulk Hogan's leg drop, The Ultimate Warrior's Gorilla Press Slam and Big Splash, Sergeant Slaughter's Cobra Clutch, Mr. Perfect's Perfect Plex, Jake Roberts' DDT, The Big Boss Man's Boss Man Slam, Earthquake's Big Splash, and Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Dream. Smash and Crush also have finishers, but they are kind of underwhelming. Smash's finisher is a simple suplex, and Crush's is just a backbreaker. Now, in my experience, some finishers work better than others. For example, I played as Mr. Perfect when I played through the tag team mode, and I must have landed like 10 perfect plexes on my opponents, and I only got a 3 count from those maybe once or twice. It did become pretty frustrating. Weakest finisher in the game, in my opinion. Players can also increase their health bar by inserting another coin, making this a game that you can certainly quarter feed your way through. Both game modes offer different parameters for victory. In the Royal Rumble mode, players can eliminate opponents by pinning them, forcing them to submit, or by throwing them out of the ring. Arcade players who got eliminated can simply insert a coin to come back in.
So I guess you just keep buying in until
You can just
the
keep
end?
buying until you don't want to anymore.
Also, when playing in the Royal Rumble mode, try to stay away from the ropes, because if you do get into a grapple with an opponent and lose it, there is a chance that you will get tossed out. And if you are playing Royal Rumble in single player mode, then it is game over. You cannot continue the way you would with multiple players. As we all know, the last man standing in the Royal Rumble wins and is crowned the King of Royal Rumble. I don't know if it's just me, but this feels like a translation issue. The easiest way to get eliminations, in my opinion, is to select a character with a back body drop against a running opponent, which I think is most characters in this game. Irish whip your opponent into the ropes, and then wait to land a back body drop near the opposite end of the ring, successfully throwing them out of the ring and eliminating them.
There you go.
If this didn't work, then I would just wear them down until I performed my finisher, successfully eliminating them via pinfall or submission. When playing Saturday night's main event tag mode, I played this game with Scott, the other half of Mass Replay, and we chose Mr. Perfect and Jake Roberts. Tag team modes play a little differently than Royal Rumbles. You can still win via pinfall or submission, but in this game mode you can also fight outside of the ring. And be careful that you're not outside of the ring for more than 20 seconds, because your match will end in a countout. When going outside of the ring, you can also pick up foreign objects like the stairs or the monitor from the announcer's table to hit your opponent with for extra damage. When a pinfall or submission happens, the untagged partner will rush into the ring to either break it up or to defend. Untagged wrestlers can also become powered up, and when tagged in, they will win every grapple during this phase and have stronger attacks. When playing the tag mode, you'll have to beat 4 or 5 other tag teams before getting your title shot against the Legion of Doom, and in the third match, you'll fight in a steel cage match where Irish whips will toss your opponent into the cage rather than bouncing them off the ropes. Now I say that it's 4 or 5 matches because it really depends on the arcade machine that you're playing and what setting the dip switches were set to. After defeating the Legion of Doom, you'll win the tag team title, becoming tag team champions. In order to officially beat the game though and roll credits, you'll have to defend your title 4 more times before beating the Legion of Doom again in a rematch. And now it's time to uncover how much we spent to beat both modes of WWF WrestleFest. Now for these games, I play them on emulator with an arcade stick, and I set up a counter to increase every time I hit the insert coin button. Let's start off with the Royal Rumble mode first, and then we'll go into the tag mode, and I found this mode to be much easier and much quicker than the tag team mode. It only took me 50 cents, or 2 credits, to beat the Royal Rumble mode, and honestly, it doesn't really get much better than that. That's almost a 1cc. Now 50 cents in 1991 would feel like spending $1.20 today, and like I said, this game mode is really fast. It only took me 5 minutes and 30 seconds to beat, which factors out to just over 9 cents per minute. Now let's take a look at tag mode, and I do have to note that when I did play with Scott, the other half of Mass Replay, we didn't realize that you had to defend your titles after we won them. We just thought it kind of looped. So we won the titles from LOD and then played one more match, and then we just decided to restart and play a Royal Rumble. So I did go back to get the correct data, and I did play tag team mode solo. So that is the data that we're going to be using there. I also want to note that when I did play with Scott, I spent $2.50 or 10 credits to beat those 6 matches that I mentioned, and Scott spent $2 even or 8 credits. When playing solo until I beat the game, I spent a total of $4.25 or 17 credits. Back in 1991, $4.25 would feel like spending $10.21 today. It took me 35 minutes to beat WrestleFest Tag Team mode in full, which factors out to about 12 cents per minute, which is a number that we see quite frequently on this series. And when it comes to the bosses, really just the 2 matches against the Legion of Doom, I spent 75 cents or 3 credits the first time that I fought them to win the titles, and then 50 cents or 2 credits to defend the titles against them, bringing my boss total to $1.25. And now it's time to bust out the Predatory Games scale to determine just how predatory WrestleFest was when it came to stealing your money. When it comes to overall cost, this is actually one of the lowest games that we've seen so far, especially when we're talking about the Royal Rumble mode. I mean, I almost 1cc'd it. I do think this is something that could be pretty easy to 1cc and to just maybe go in and play a quick 5 minutes to get the most mileage out of your coin. That being said, I do think this mode was probably made as more of a 4-player feature. Tag team mode is also much longer and a little bit more difficult, but when you compare it to other beat 'em ups that came out around this time, you're still spending 12 cents per minute just like you would on those games, so I would say it is still pretty fair. There is a small learning curve here. The grappling system is not inherently apparent from the beginning. You do kind of have to get a feel for it, but once you do, then you kind of understand the game a little bit more and you get much better at it. I'm also not sure if they explained how to do things on the cabinet or anything like that, but things like how to perform finishers, you don't really know how to do this, and I did figure it out that they do just happen when your health bar decreases or when your opponent's health bar decreases. That being said, once you kind of figure out the mechanics of WrestleFest, it's a lot easier to play. There are some things that I'm still confused about though. Like, for example, you can reverse moves and do reversals. As said before, Mr. Perfect, his finisher is terrible. And when people weren't kicking out of his finisher after I performed it on them, then they were reversing it before I even got a chance to perform it. And I'm still completely unclear at how to perform a reversal or how to prevent one. I really just button mashed the entire time, and it really just kind of decided when it wanted to reverse things and not. I don't know. It just feels like some grapples are completely unwinnable. And it was determined that before you even locked up with your opponent, because I would be pushing the hell out of my button. There is no way that they would be able to get a grapple off or win that grapple. And they still won, or they still reversed things on me. And it just seems like it was completely unavoidable. I don't have any proof to back up that claim, but that is how it felt to me when playing this game. I actually really enjoy the continue method in this game. Sure, you can continue after you've lost the match, but you can avoid the continue screen altogether just by entering a coin to refill your health meter, and then that way you don't have to wear your opponent down from scratch as you would entering a match from the very beginning. Now, like I said before, once you get the gameplay mechanics down, this game is a ton of fun to play. It did make me want to keep coming back. The Royal Rumble mode for me, even though it is short, is just a load of fun, and it's even more fun if you're playing with friends. Highly recommend WWF WrestleFest. So with all of that factored together, there's definitely some unfairness, what I believe to be unavoidable grapple losses and reversals, and a little bit of a learning curve, which is going to bump up the score. But my score is going to be a 3 out of 10 on the Predatory game scale.
The King of Royal Rumble!
Slight unfairnesses aside, I actually find WrestleFest to be very fair. If you're just looking at the Royal Rumble mode, I think this game easily gets a 1 on the scale. And if you're looking at the tag team mode, then I think this game gets somewhere around like a 4, maybe a 5. So I do think rating it a 3 out of 10 is pretty fair. The game also really captures the essence and the presentation of WWF, for WWE as it is now known today. And I think some mechanics like the grappling system, being able to lift opponents from the ground, character entrance attires, are things that really evolved into what we would see in wrestling entries years later. Do you agree or disagree with my rating? Please sound off in the comments below, and I will do my best to reply. Now, can you play WrestleFest today? Unfortunately, it has never been released for home consoles, but as of this video, you can buy the arcade 1-up of WWF WrestleFest, although I think it's now called WWE WrestleFest, which also comes with Superstars as well as Super Dodgeball, the Big Pro Wrestling, and Acrobatic Dogfight. If you would like to support Mass Replay and Arcade Economy, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member or a patron on Patreon. For just $1, you'll get access to our Arcade Economy live streams, and at the $5 level, you'll get extra videos every month, plus all of the videos early and ad-free. You can also support me at the producer level and get your name shouted out in my videos. And with that, a big shout out to our producers, Jake Weed, Tanner Trezza, Pezmage, and John Forhan. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Next time on Arcade Economy, we're playing through Michael Jackson Moonwalker, so be sure to check back for that video. Hey, if you liked this video, it would mean a great deal to me if you could give it a big thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't, and hopefully you'll see me on my next video. Thanks for watching.
Surely he can't kick out
How do you-
5
how do you
perfect
do-
plexes.
Oh,
Oh, he reversed it.